For the people who don't know, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Armani White. I'm a rapper from Philadelphia, West Philadelphia.
Nice. So what's life been like for you lately? Like what music are you putting out? What's inspiring you? Where's your head at?
Bro, we shot a video the other day, and I couldn't make it to the barbershop in time because I was like, we had to go pick up a generator for the video, then we had to go. So I was like, damn, I'm gonna have to cut my own facial hair. Fuck my shit up. Like, I messed my jaw up right here. So I'm trying to I'm sitting like But life been busy, more or less. We've been on the road, kind of on and off for the past year, from my own tour, touring with Vince Staples, festivals, college shows, it's back-to-back touring kind of thing. It's been nonstop, more or less. So I'm happy to just be kind of off the road right now and being able to put out music, you know what I'm saying? Get a break just to focus on content, focus on just go back to being an artist, go back to being you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. What's the last project or record you put out?
Last record we put out more recently is a record called Touche. It was the idea that the record, I think when we made it, it was a piece of a bigger record that I kind of scrapped at one point, but just I just really liked that one part, and I really liked when we made it, it was me in the studio and the girl in the studio, and I kind of gave her, I created the setting, gave her the environment, gave her the vibe, gave her the energy, and told her what the story was. So I really wanted to kind of be what my mother seen my father as, and I wanted the girl to be what my father seen my mother as, and I wanted to put both of those on one record, and that was, I feel like it was executed really well.
And so what is coming next? Are you working on a body of work right now that you have some time?
Yeah, so now that I have some time, I can finally roll out. I think how it happened in chronological order was I lost my father, and then I just lost everything. Kind of I took a break from the world really, and it wasn't until I had a homie, Louis Futon. He took me, he picked me up, took me on the road, and we kind of toured the world. On his tour, I was just running out on stage with him for a while, and then he let me stay at his crib. It's yo, just get everything back together, figure your life out, and you know what I'm saying, whatever you got to do, just do it, and then you know what I mean, let's pick it back up. So at that point, I just started just making a bunch of music. Was making nonstop music. Came back to Philly, was making more nonstop music. Came up to New York, nonstop music, nonstop. And finally, over these past couple months, started to release it, and it gained a little bit of traction. And then it finally got the opportunity, the chance to put it all together, pile it up, and make it into one cohesive thing. I knew when I was making the music, I more or less, in my head, I felt like I had to explain myself. I felt like I wouldn't have been able to keep calm and carry on without really getting this burden off of my shoulders of this is what I went through. This is what I felt from it. This is, it was more or less a grieving process. So the music was created in a way that when I went to the funeral for my father, they told me not to mourn the death, but to celebrate the life of my father. So when I made the music, I wanted to celebrate his life, and I wanted to kind of create a project that felt like a celebration of his life. So the entire project is titled Keep in Touch. The entire project is more or less just his story from the time of which right before he had me and until when he had me, and how that changed him as a man. And just kind of the growing steps of being less of this character that everyone idolizes or that holds this certain name and hold this certain weight, into I have to be a father, I have to change, I have to be this person for other people. And yeah, that's more so what the project is about, and project name, title, that's what I've been working on. And now I'm happy to finally have that done, finished, and ready to package it up and send it out to the world. Yeah.
Awesome. So it sounds like a really special project, just given the context and the story behind it. Mm-hmm. Is there more that you can share about your relationship with your father, his story, and just how he influenced you as a man and as a person, as an artist, everything?
I think me and my father had my father down, I think from me to my father to his father, we had a really kind of strange relationship in the idea that we clashed more so because we were all alike. You understand? So like we all knew, we knew each other so well because we were each other, and I think the fact that we were so much alike was what made us kind of butt heads and distance us from each other. So me and my father for a while we butt heads, and I think going up to when he passed, I didn't. We were just kind of on the off side. We were on like bad terms for like a little bit of time, and I was doing shows. I was headed to his house to tell him like. I guess I was headed to his house to kind of just be like, yeah, man, like, to reconcile things, to kind of like get it all off my chest, whatever. And it was like, I was on the road. We did a couple shows. We were doing the last show in Philly. So my dad lives not that far from me, like right around the corner. So I'm like, cool, bet, might as well stop by there. Driving down the street to go stop at his crib and invite him out to the show. And when I get there, I see this like, God, my dad's probably like, he's like a bigger guy. I see this guy is like half the size of him, but the same height, more or less, half the size of him standing on my dad's steps. And I'm like, who's that? So I'm staring and just waiting at the light by the turn. And it wasn't until he picked my little sister out of the car that I realized that was my dad. So I'm confused. I just speed off. And I called my brother just to ask him what's going on. Like, yo, like, have you seen daddy? Have you talked to him? And he was like, nah. And I told him what I saw. He said, well, I did hear from his doctor. His doctor told me that he had prostate cancer, but he said everything was good, everything was clearing up. And I think I called him, I hung up the phone, I broke down. The reason why I was breaking down is because even though he said everything was good, he clearly didn't see what I had just saw. And like, what I seen was telling me like nothing was good at the slightest. So I just couldn't really internalize it. I was at a Chinese store bawling my eyes out. And I just drove off. I went to sound check and I'm crying all through sound check, and nobody really knows what's going on. Like even my mom's there, she doesn't know what's happening. And I think after that, I called everybody on the team. I told them like I'm gonna just take a break from like just from the music thing. And I went by my dad's house like a week later was his birthday. I went by my dad's house and we just like cried. Like I've seen him, we hugged and we just cried for like a solid like 30, 40 minutes, something like that. And then, yeah, I think I spent that birthday with him. From there, I stopped making music for a while. I just kind of like hung in with him for a little bit, a couple months. And then that June the 10th was when he passed. And he was in a hospice before that. And yeah, that was more or less our relationship up until like the final days. Before that, it was, typical father-son. Like, I think a lot of me making music was more so me, it was more so built around him, and I didn't necessarily, it was an idea that I didn't really want to accept, because the way I was raised and like the relationship that my mother and father had, it was kind of like, they didn't try to make it like that, but as a kid, like growing up, it was like you either got to choose one side and that's the right side, or that's the wrong side, or you go on this side, then that's the wrong side, this is the right side. And and I went a while looking at my dad as like the villain, more so to problems that I didn't necessarily understand or that didn't necessarily apply to me, but because he was the villain to my mom, he was the villain to me. So it was just like an on and off, like a rocky relationship. But I think even when it was off, he was still a really big influence in what I did and how I acted. He was my confidence. He was my fearlessness. He was my, he was the person that kind of instilled the ideas that like, to be brave, or to be kind of like the foundation of strength to me or to someone else, or for me or for someone else. And so I think just having that, even for the little 20 years that I had it, I think it's still gonna be something that sticks with me for generations, and on to when I pass that down to whoever, and then they pass that down to whoever. I think the blessing was still that I was able to have him in my life for the time that I did have him in my life. And so, yeah, so now like making this project is really important to me, because it gives me an opportunity to kind of create a time capsule that lives in, and to always be able to go back to that and say, this is what that was. These are those moments. And, and this is why this is important. It's not just music, and the music wasn't just made because of this. This music has a meaning in it. It feels a certain way because, it's meant to move a spirit the same way. You understand? Like, yeah, but yeah, that was our relationship more so.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your loss, man.
It's all good. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you were inspired and back out here releasing music and, finding your purpose and your path. How did you get into making music? How did you wind up where you're at now?
I think originally I wanted to I always wanted to just kind of be involved in something artistic. I used to want to draw. I could never draw a nose. I sucked at drawing noses. So I kind of after time I had heard an Eminem song. It's called "Kill You," and and yeah, and before that I heard a lot of Ludacris songs that really inspired me. But it was between the two that I would listen to it, and I was like, man, different from the traditional club music or things that I heard on the radio. It was these people were talking about, even with Eminem more specifically, because even Ludacris kind of had the same subject matter. Eminem was talking about killing his mom. So and not that I was in any way inspired by that, but I was just inspired by the idea that you could go on a record, make a song, and talk about whatever it is that you wanted to, was what really inspired me and really kind of drew me in. Was man, I'm 7 years old. I got a lot to say. You know what I'm saying? So from there, I just started writing. I didn't really have anything to write about at the time. I was probably writing about Disney movies and stuff like that. I was writing Disney versus Cartoon Network and all that. But I still was yo, I need to, I want to apply myself. I want to put this pen to the paper and come up with something dope. So, yeah, that was kind of how it started. And that was again, this is really early. I think it's funny because at the time, nowadays, I have to kind of fend my friends off. Yeah, bro, and this one pop up. Yo, I started rapping today. That one pop up. I started rapping today. This one pop up. I started rapping today. It's back then, I was trying to get my friends to rap with me. Yo, just go on LimeWire, type in instrumentals, and then this gonna come up. I was trying to get them to get on songs with me. Now it's all right, yo, you come on, bro. You don't really be rapping. You know what I'm saying? It's funny how the dynamic changed, but I started with that. I kind of that went into me and the homie Keem. He had a mic in the back of his house. We used to just rap on that mic in the back. Yeah, we rap on the mic in the back till actually going into real studios and all that. It's just it kind of kept building and building and building.
Yeah, when did it hit that turning point where it became more a career for you, and you're able to get on the road, put records out that thousands of people listen to? When did it start to become something more viable than just a kid with a mic in his friend's backyard?
I think 2015. I put out a record called "Stick Up." I didn't really I knew it was dope, but I was I don't know how it's gonna get to the world. I just know it's dope. Whatever happens, happens. So I was in the back of accounting class. I was watching Archer. And and I was watching Archer, and I was editing this video, and I'm bet, whatever. I got 5 more minutes until the class is up. I need to hurry up and finish this video. I was dragging my feet on the video for a minute, so I was all right, bet. Pressing upload, whatever. Put it on YouTube, press upload, close my laptop. I dipped. I went to go play pool. Playing pool. I love playing pool, by the way. I'm playing pool, and one of my homies, one of my young boys is a New York homie. He walk up, son. He said, son, that stick up joint is crazy. I don't know what the New York word for joint is, but yeah, they son, that stick up joint is crazy. So I'm how you hear that? He said, man, such and such blog posted it. And I think it was Pigeons and Planes posted it. I said, yeah. He talking about, yeah. He bro, that joint crazy in the video where you had, and then they all jump around. I said, blah. So that started just growing. Jumped on it. Put on another blog. It was on another blog. And I was whoa, just watching it all kind of unravel. And then from there, I think a month or two later, we did our first festival. We did A3C. It was all for all off that record. we put another record out that did even better than the first one, and then we got on tour with Big KRIT. Like right after that, they like agency hit me. It's like, yo, we got an open slot for an opener and for a local opener in DC. Go on tour with Big KRIT. The first night, my DJ goes up to the crowd, and Big KRIT audience way older than mine. So I'm probably, I think I'm 18 or 19 at the time. Big KRIT audience like 35. They all getting off work, fresh out work. My DJ, he run up to the crowd, throw all this water at the crowd. Misses the entire crowd. Gets it all on the sound guy and all on their piano. Bad joint. As soon as the song was done, I said, y'all gotta go. Y'all gotta get out of here. So, first tour, we got kicked off. First night. And so, we laugh about it, what I'm saying, whatever, move on. And right after that, we did HBC, did that, and right after that, we had like a home show in Philly, where like we had like the first show where we actually sold our own tickets, and I was like, dang, that's crazy. Like people was actually coming out to see me, like people was paying money to see me. It was like, man, it's a really cool experience. I think that point was the tipping point. Like 2015 was the tipping point where it just started to like really become like a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And like and people actually buying into it, people actually supporting it in a real way that wasn't just like me just texting the homie like, yo, man, can you check the song out? If you like it, retweet it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was actually like something organic, something real. Like people who I had no idea, never heard of, never met before was reaching out like, damn, that's dope. Like, do the next this, you the next that, or whatever it is. So, yeah, 2015 was the turning point of everything.
So, 4 years later and going into 2020, where do you think it's at now?
I think it took a dip because of, I wouldn't necessarily say a dip, but I took a big leave of absence, like kind of thing. Once that whole situation happened, just like a personal disappearance. So I think now it took a while just kind of building up to make sure it was at the hype and at the attention level that it was originally. And then once it got to that point, it's like, okay, now let's go even further than that. And now I feel like we've gotten to the point where we're like double that. We still haven't like popped the bubble, you know what I'm saying, or still haven't like tipped over the mountain, but we definitely are like, I think it's at a really high climbing point. Like, all of the I've toured with, you know what I'm saying, and this year alone, like a lot of the artists that I'm fans of, I've been on the road with them now, like the legendary artists, like I've shared the stage with Nas now, like I think there's, just in this year alone, there's been so many accolades and kind of like things to add on to the docket that really just like sets it far apart from like the average, even me a year ago that was like, yo, I'm trying to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like I think there is such a big gap in between the two, just based off of like experience, knowledge, and like just like real life altercations that actually like took place, and that I can go to sleep at night knowing that I've done these things. I can't like give it a percentage level, but like if I was here last year, I'm definitely like here right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's interesting you say that, like feeling like you're in a better or a higher place because of like the knowledge and experience that you have. Mm. So with experiences, I mean, the Big KRIT story, that's amazing.
It's terrible.
And just releasing music though, seeing what people respond to, what they don't. Maybe having to deal with the business side of it a bit, and money and contracts and all this stuff. Like, what have you learned about the game? Like, what's your take on like what it really takes to be an artist?
I guess like I can speak from the independent side of things. Best advice I've ever gotten was from my uncle when I was a kid. I was like 15. He told me, always know 50% of what you're willing to pay somebody 100% to know. And I mean, that's the best advice I got back then, and that's the best advice that still applies now. Is like, regardless, like I've been able to be kind of a force in any conversation that I have, just because I like to know more than the average artist. And you know what I'm saying, sometimes it's a crippling thing, sometimes it's extremely helpful, because sometimes it allows you to give the answers to people who are trying to fish for the answers for themselves. So like maybe if there's a video guy and like he doesn't know how exactly to pull off this idea for, you may pitch him a record and he's like, oh yeah, like I'll direct it, but he doesn't know what it should look like. You can come in with those directions. You can come in with the direction for that video. Okay, no, this is supposed to go this way, this is supposed to go blah, blah, blah. Like, whether that be on a marketing standpoint, you could pitch in ideas that could also be helpful. But like, I just think that little piece of advice, it held true, and it just fit in so many different conversations. It fit into so many different blocks. So yeah, I mean, like that's always been useful for me way back then, and even to now, like to be able to use that and then to utilize the internet and utilize like the free form idea that people are. I think just like the world and where it's at right now is that it's very, the middleman is in less and less of a solid seat. It's kind of like being pulled more further out of the conversation, and like the world from like creator to consumer is getting closer and closer. And I think the more you utilize that and utilize the idea that you can reach whoever it is you're trying to reach directly, I think that's so important for anybody. Like, whether you're coming up, whether you're already up, whether you're at the top, like I think being able to just kind of connect all the time is like the most important thing. And being human, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like a lot of the conversations I have is just people that, people who utilize other people because they can, or people who have conversations with other people because they can utilize them for something in the future. And it's less of like a organic relationship, just more so like a keep this person at bay because may need them in a month when such and such is releasing whatever. And, and I think being able to just be as human and as organic as possible is always like really important in this industry. Yeah.
1,000%. So, I think I got about another 2 questions really, but I want to shift to talk about the music specifically. I know we talked about, being an artist, making music, or kind of, some of the themes with the record and this kind of like macro level conversation about it. But when it comes down to just like the songs themselves, the craft, the process, like, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to say? What sound are you trying to achieve? What's your mission there?
I named my genre Happy Hood Music. So I think I'm from the neighborhood. The topics I bring up, I still talk about things that us being from the neighborhood, we can understand, we can relate to. But to kind of the idea, anytime I'm making music, like prime example is again the homie Louis Futon. We when I found out about my father after we kind of had our session, I ran over to his crib and was like, yo, let's make a song. And we just made about the most happiest, cheerful song I ever made in my life. And another time I remember when I found out my uncle had got killed. And from that news, I just got in the car, I drove over to my homie's crib and didn't even tell him what was going on. I was just like, yeah, I really just want to make something happy. And we made another happy song. And like, I don't intentionally make happy songs. I think when I'm in a really dark place, I like to think about more or less like when you're traveling through the tunnel, you imagine what it's like when you're getting out of the tunnel. It's like, yo, when I finally come back above ground, it's gonna be crazy. Like that's, what I'm saying, that's more or less a lot of times like the process. So like when I'm probably happy, I can make more darker music. Who knows? But I think the idea I try to create, especially in that vein, is just to take something really dark, to take really dark matter, kind of ball it all the way up and throw it at the wall as hard as you can and make colors pop out. And you know what I'm saying? I don't want to throw something really dark at the wall and then just like paint the whole wall dark. I'd rather colors to fly back at me, just because, I don't know, we live in a colorful world. We like to see colors. We like to see green. We like to see red hair. We like to see, like green being as earthy as possible, red being as vain, as dark as or as personal as possible, blue being, I don't know, cheerful or modest or loyal or whatever it is, and black being, something hard, something heavy, something like angry or menacing. Like, we like different colors. You know what I'm saying? As human beings, I don't think anybody's a one-dimensional character. I don't think anybody just like wants to hear one thing all day. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I don't want to hear one thing all day. I don't even want to hear rap music all day. Even though I make rap, I like to listen to jazz. I like to listen to, you know, like I grew up on James Brown. I grew up on Kirk Franklin. I grew up on Tame Impala. A lot of different, like, you know, it just always has varied for me growing up and understanding music. So to grow up and create music, it's not like a straight and narrow line. And you know, it's not like a straight and narrow line. Like I want to convey this message. Just like I think if I was to convey any message, just kind of to take something really dark and make it something really colorful. And you know, for more or for less, like for as a kid, for me, I felt like I didn't have a voice, and I didn't have that. I never gained that voice until I started to make music. So when I'm making music, it's not necessarily a voice with a message. It's a voice with many messages. It's a bunch of different voicemails. It's not one call. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's the whole call log. So, yeah, I just I just want to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, like a lot of different messages is being conveyed as long as, you know, it has some sort of subject matter in some sense. I think that's what's important to me.
Great. And then the last question, so, you know, kind of understanding a bit more about your journey, how you kind of saw that early pop when you get like the Pigeons and Planes placement, stuff like that, and take a break from things, regroup, have all these experiences between before and after. And I know, like you said earlier, you're feeling like you're in a better place and kind of like back, you know, on the path towards what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you, especially someone who's experienced things? It's like you've shared a stage with Nas, like you said, like you've done things that you probably dreamed about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you know that there's still more to be done. So having achieved some of your dreams, but still having things that you want to get to, like what is that you're working toward? It's like, and that's not like beyond the music. The last question is very specific about, you know, your sound and your subject matter and stuff, but like just who do you want to be? Like what do you want to be remembered for, known for? And when people say, yo, you check out that Armani White, oh, like he's a guy who's like this, what are you hoping that resonates as?
I think that answer is always going to change. I'll tell you why in a second, but I want to be remembered as someone who's always authentic to myself, and that may be like authentic in the idea that it didn't conform to this sound, or authentic in the idea that it didn't conform to this decision, but authentic to self is the music has a lot of trumpets in it. That could be just like a random idea. The music has a lot of trumpets in it, and the music has a lot of trumpets in it because I grew up in a house of prayer family, so all of every uncle, every male in my family plays some form of a horn. Organs, I grew up in church. Like, however it is, it's like I want this all to relate back to me. I want it to feel like me. I want it to feel like, I don't want it to feel like I heard something this day and I got inspired by. I want it to feel like you know what I'm saying? Like I dug this from deep within, and you know, and yeah, and I think if you know what I'm saying, like I could have chose this thing to say I wanted to be remembered as like the loud soulful hip hop guy, or the New Orleans street brass music kind of guy, or I could have been like I want to be known for making, you know, the most menacing dark music, or I want to be known for having the fast flows all the time. And I think that's something that all these things I think are things that people kind of have characterized me as. But one of the letters that my dad used to write me when I was a kid, he used to write me these letters that I didn't understand until I grew up, and there's a phrase that's like super important on one of them. He said, "By the time you reach a peak, you'll find a new mountain," and that's how I look at the entire journey. Is if my peak was the one day say I want to play a show with Nas, by the time I get to the point where I want to play a show with Nas and I'm actually playing a show with Nas, it's about 10 other things I want to do. You know what I'm saying? By the time I accomplish all 10 of those things, there's I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I want to do a show with James Blake. Now I've done a show with James Blake. It's like 10 other things I want to, you understand? So like, it just keeps funneling and funneling and funneling. I don't know what that thing is that I want to be remembered for when I go until I'm going. You know what I'm saying? By the time I'm going, I'll be like, all right, I accomplished all of these things, you know. Now, the last one I'm gonna leave you off with is this. I haven't got there. I don't want to end anytime soon. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what I want to leave off with right now. I know I want to just be in the Vegas forums. Like, anyone to tell you they want to be the biggest thing in the world, but I want to be the most, not only the biggest, but the most authentic. And I've always wanted to, when I make music, I want to, if there was a million, if I was a painter and I was painting a picture for millions of people, and matter of fact, say 100,000 people, and 10,000 people, 10,000 of those 100,000 people had glow in the dark glasses on, and I had glow in the dark paint, and on the glow in the dark side, I drew a burning building, people running out of the burning building, you know, like whoever, like the cops not trying to stop it because it's a black family inside the burning building. They're letting the burning building go down, and I know what that means to me. You as a black man, you know what that means to the culture, and I could speak to that. I think there's even white people that could speak to that, but on the surface, I just drew a smiley face, and that's not in the glow in the dark. On the surface, I just drew a smiley face. And 90,000 people seen that smiley face. And they was like, dang, that's a dope smiley face. 10,000 people seen that burning building. And it was like, man, this is like really impactful, really powerful. And so when I'm making the music, how I look at it is, there's always gonna be a cloud. There's a cloud with a little bit of rain. And I think I have to please the cloud and I have to please the rain. And I rather please the rain in small increments. I know the rain is always going to be smaller than the cloud, and I have to also please the cloud. And I know the cloud is always going to be larger than the rain. Therefore, when I'm making the music, it's like, let me make something that's on the surface level. You can bump it. It's easy to listen to. It's fun. It's original. It's organic, and it's joyful. It makes me feel good. When we dive deeper, it means this. It holds this weight. It's this important. It's important because of these things, and I can stand on this. I can write a think piece on this. I could do all of these things, and and I want to please both sides. I want to make sure that the scale is always balanced. That's where I'm at with making the music.